Thanks for joining me for this module in the PD series, Growing into STEM, where I'll be interviewing an awesome Alberta STEM teacher, Amanda Green. Amanda works for Black Gold School Division, and in this interview, you'll hear from her where she shares her wisdom around how she got started with STEM education, some of the benefits she's seen for student learning, as well as some tips and advice she has for teachers getting started. Now, you may recall the term maker empowerment from the first module in this PD series, that sense students can develop through doing these types of activities, where they feel like they can overcome challenges and solve problems, and how this tended to transfer into other areas of their lives. Well, what I think you'll notice is that Amanda Green herself really displays a lot of this maker empowerment herself as an educator. And you can too. This can be a really exciting, invigorating thing to introduce into your career. And so I really think you're going to enjoy this interview. Thanks so much in advance to Amanda Green for her time, and please enjoy the interview. All right, hi and welcome. I'd like to welcome Amanda Green, who's a tremendous teacher from Black Gold School Division, here to talk to us today. Welcome, Amanda. How are you doing?
Great, thank you for having me. How are you?
Awesome. You've been doing some great STEM education, so thanks so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to meet with us and share some of your wisdom today. So maybe to start off with, just tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of sort of how you started in this journey towards STEM education.
Well, I'm a science teacher, primarily junior high science. I've done math. I've done just about everything. I teach French immersion. I teach English. I even taught a Spanish class. But I am this optimistic yes girl. I had a admin say, hey, we need someone to teach electronics option. This is 20 years ago. I'm like, okay. We have these robots another teacher doesn't want. You want to do them? I'm like, sure. We're going to get into Minecraft. I never really got into Minecraft. I just tried it. Yeah, want to. I want to try some microbits? Okay, sure. So just saying yes to scary new things has kind of brought me down this excellent path of STEM education. And like, again, primarily focused on the S in STEM for science, but trying to do a little bit of everything and just weave it all together and get kids, these 21st century skills that they need. Yeah.
Awesome. So what does the term kind of STEM education mean to you, and kind of why do you feel it's important for students?
Well, to be honest, I think it's really important that we embrace this cross-curricular knowledge. In the real world, you're not just one thing, you're many things. And in order to find your role, whether it's career or personal, you are many, many things. So STEM is this beautiful, title for science, technology, engineering, and math, which are some skills that we're really trying to help I guess, promote or grow or demystify and bring into the limelight to sort of kind of move kids forward and get Canada as being a world leader in STEM. But you can add an A for art. You can add an R for robotics or reading. You can make it as cross-curricular as possible. And I think it's just this great word that we use for a thing we've already been doing. But now it's given it space, it's given it a title, it's made it something that we can use to kind of move forward in this great little movement.
Well, and you've really integrated a lot of environmental education into that as well, haven't you?
Yeah, well, my superpower is I can make anything about space, and we'll come back to the environment in a second. And I found that space was really the spark for a lot of this technology advancements and engineering projects and just things that I love because, my spark for science started hunting and fishing with my dad. And then my spark for space was when I got to hear Chris Hadfield talk to all of Canada from the International Space Station, and I fell madly in love. I call him my space dad, but don't tell him I call him that. And all of these things got me really excited. And we want to be that for our kids. We want to be the spark. So being able to provide that for them has been great. Then, all of these great projects that I've tried to take on over the years, we've done growing plants in simulated Martian soil. They cost money. So you got to find your funding somewhere. And so I started looking for grants and things for teachers, and there's a lot of money out there, but a lot of it is based in energy. And so there's Inside Education, there's the Alberta Emerald Foundation, there's just a whole bunch of things. And then there's technology ones from Best Buy and other companies. So being able to find a project that had a space theme that helped kids make everything better for the environment was perfect. And it really does encapsulate all the problem solving skills we want kids to have. So Basically, over the past few years, we've had kids try to make energy efficient Martian habitats, coding automated systems for water use or energy use, developing alternative energy sources if you were living on Mars and there's almost nothing there, it's so hostile. But ultimately, how would those technologies help life here on Earth? So when you can take that really big idea and break it down into something super simple, have a little bit of funding to kind of support it, kids buy into it and they're excited and they want to solve these problems. They want to go to Mars or the moon, or even just figure out how we're going to have energy when they're grandparents, right? So it's great.
Wow.
A little bit of a tangent there, but
yeah, no, that's incredible. So you mentioned some of the technologies and equipment and things like that. What are some of your favorite tools or practices for integrating STEM?
Madly in love with microbits. I wish I had one here to show you, but teachers, educators, if you can get your hand on it, it's this little tiny pocket-sized computer. It's got a couple buttons, a couple lights, and it can do anything. It's incredible and it's super simple. When I first started in the technology and coding world, I knew nothing. So for teachers who are thinking of taking on STEM, it can seem super scary to take on that coding and technology part. But really, you learn along with your kids. I tell my students, day 2, day 3, you're going to know more than I do. I am a problem solver. I am a facilitator, but I actually am a really beginner basic coder. So yeah, being able to use microbits that uses block coding, not all the like matrix coding, is super simple. And then you can add attachments and it's super affordable too. They're about $30 each, and you can have, if you have a class of 30, you can double up. Well, you have to be careful nowadays, but you figure it out. And it's all the little attachments are pretty affordable. And if something little breaks, you don't have to lose the whole system. So yeah, I really, really, really love microbits, and it's super user friendly and there's lots of resources online. Yeah, that's probably the king of all coding.
Oh yeah, I agree. It's like what you're talking about sounds super complicated, but and while I'm sure there is, you progress. Getting started with a microbit can be really easy, right? But yet it's so powerful as well.
Absolutely, and versatile. And there's so many supports out there. There's a great organization called Inksmith, and they make these climate action kits. So they're called land kits, and it's got an automated watering pump. Well, let me tell you, got one. Yes, they are so good. And if you keep an eye on their social media, they often give online seminars. It comes with an entire resource bank. It shows you lessons from A to Z, and they're fantastic. So they're really user friendly too.
And like $45, right? So we're not talking about really super expensive pieces of equipment here. And I love the web-based coder. Like any kid with a Chromebook can basically, there's even a little virtual microbit on the screen, so you can test out your code and make sure it works. And then, as you mentioned, if you don't have one of these microbit devices for each kid, you can still, they can still work on their code and make sure things work, and then download it to their microbit.
Another thing I was thinking about, because sometimes we don't have funding for things. I know the past few years have been really tight. And if you're interested in getting into that technology piece, Scratch is a great online platform, completely free. So scratch.mit.edu. And there's even, I forget the name of it exactly, maybe you can help me out, but there's like almost like a Google Classroom version of Scratch lessons. I'm just getting started with them this year. Do you remember what that's called?
Anyways. No, I haven't seen it, but it sounds really awesome.
It's really great, and I'll maybe put it in the show notes. I'll find it for you. Okay. But with Scratch, kids can learn how to code, and it's completely online, so there's no physical robotics or lights or anything. It's all web-based. But I had my students coding stories. I made an entire arcade, and then this is before COVID, but the younger kids would come to our class and they would play the arcade games that our children in junior high had coded. And then we had them coding stories. And most recently, I was trying to code a story that was interactive to teach vocabulary words in Cree, because we're here on Treaty 6 territory. And so Cree is one of the cultures that I am most closely related to, and weaving Indigenous ways of knowing has kind of become my biggest PD goal. Reconciliation in STEM is kind of what I've been calling it. And I've been trying to learn more than just, sky stories and plants and medicines, which are amazing, but how do we make it authentic and weave it into everything? And so this is one of the ways. So you click on it, it had the word in Cree, and then eventually I'm hoping to get an audio bite, and It's really great. So you could do that with many different ideas, just about anything you can think of in your classroom that you wanted to code, and it's free.
Well, it sounds like a lot of fun, and it sounds like you hit on some really important topics. I'm wondering, you've worked with lots of students in these past few years in STEM education. What are some of the benefits you've seen for students through STEM education? Big question, I know.
Yeah, no, I have about 7 answers, so I was just organizing them in my brain. The biggest one I think is empowerment. Kids often feel, especially right now, just out of control of a lot of things in their lives. They're not responsible for their, their home life, and they have so many things, and this is something that they can do and that they can figure out. They are going to eventually be the people making policies and technologies and, being an active part of society. So if we can teach them problem solving skills now, if we can empower them, to take on all that climate anxiety they might be feeling, or maybe, mental health is a big thing right now, or, medical stuff. Like, there's so many different problems that, depending on what it is as a teacher that you want to take on as your passion project, mine is space. But if you take that thing that you're excited about as a teacher and you find a way to have kids solve a problem around it, then they feel so empowered. They feel so invincible. And I think it's a really important thing to teach kids, and that you're going to make mistakes and it's not going to work. Like, when you're a scientist, and I'm going to reference my science teacher soulmate, Julie Arsenault, she always talks about when she was in university for microbiology, and about how when she's trying to do her studies in labs, about how she failed and failed and failed and failed and failed. The majority of the time, science, you fail and you go back and you rework it and you work the problem. When we're teaching, our students the engineering design process, and we're building structures, they're going to build something that's going to fall apart. It's not going to be perfect every time. And the more that they can go through, we built hydroponic gardens, and they're still leaking. It's been 2 years and they're still leaking, and we're trying to figure it out, but we're learning so much in those moments. And so it makes it's taking the curriculum, learning it while we build, while we code, while we go through the engineering design process or the scientific method. And then it's getting kids to solve that problem and to work that problem. And sometimes I have to let them. Like, it's really easy to kind of want to just go in and be like, okay, but just do this. Or ask them why. The computer is only as smart as the coder. So go through your code, rework your code. What did you tell the computer to do, and how are we going to fix it? And it's great. It can be frustrating. It can be hard, but those eureka moments, I tell you, the first time we got the automated watering pump to go, like, the kids are coding. My desk looked like MacGyver's workshop. Like, there was wires and water and pumps and alligator clips and like tape and soldering irons. It was chaos. And we're sitting there, and we're people from Twitter, from Let's Talk Science, and from other people that we've met are all like, hey, have you tried this? Like, I had people all over the world giving me tips, and we got it together and we just screamed eureka, and the kids freaked out, I freaked out, and then all of them built their own, and it was magical. So yeah.
Wow. That's something they'll remember for a long time, I'm sure.
I hope so. Even just a few.
Yeah, so certainly those problem solving skills, and I imagine that would build a level of confidence or resiliency. That's certainly something that we want for every student, right?
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned every student. I also find that coding differentiates incredibly well. I had a young student with Down syndrome who was able to code light on, light off. It's beautiful. All the way up to like my super kids who are teaching me how to, like, they built like cardboard robots out of microbits, like, and they were incredible. So I just love that they can work at their own pace. And when I assess them, I tell them, like, your assessment is based on where you start and where you end in the problems you solve, and collaboration and helping each other. So because you're going to know more than I do. If this kid can help that kid figure it out, that is part of it. So yeah, that's great.
So it sounds like there's a lot of character development, not only just for kids in terms of their own interpersonal skills, but also sort of designing solutions that can help their community or their world too, right? That's incredible. You've given some great advice here already, but do you have any other advice for teachers who maybe are really at the beginning stages, who want to get started with STEM education with their students? And what advice might you have for tips for teachers who just kind of want to dip their toe in the pool and get started?
Do it. Don't be afraid. Just jump in, both feet. I promise the water's warm. Yeah, like I said, I'm this optimistic yes girl. You want to try something? Yeah. Although I have to admit, lately I've had to scale it back because there's so many cool things and I need to, it's a little self-care here, but try something new. It can be something small like trying out Scratch, starting with one microbit just for you, or if you're doing a project, an engineering design project, it doesn't have to be huge. It can start with something small. And find your spark, your passion, because when it's something you're interested in, and it could be anything, maybe you love cooking, maybe it's photography, maybe it's environmental science, whatever it is, find that passion, find a problem, pose it to your kids, and figure out a way to solve it. And it doesn't have to be big. And much like our friends on the International Space Station, we thrive best through collaboration, through working together. You can't do this alone. And as a teacher, you can't do this alone. So you need to ask for help, whether it be, resources from the ATA, or in your school district, if there's a technology lead that can help you, or, another teacher. And working together is awesome. And when, COVID and safety guidelines allow it, mentorship is really great. So if you have a high school that wants to mentor your kids, or if you're I'm junior high and we called it coding buddies. And so the grade 5s would come into my classroom, and now the grade 5 teachers, they don't even need me. They're doing it on their own. So once we can again, I'm going to take on a different group of kids and different group of teachers, because by the time they lead up to me, then I'm going to have all these kids that know the basics already. So it's like learning another language. It's like another class. If we want to get kids and teachers feeling excited about using technology, we have to start somewhere. So just start small. And and it's not just for junior high school, like elementary, there is so much. And maybe I'll send the link to share, but Black Gold has developed a really great microbit site that links to the science curriculum starting grade 2 all the way through to grade 9. And it's all there laid out for you, and it's fantastic. So yeah, just get started, take some PD, or message me. I love collaborating, and I've had so many people help me through my journey that paying it forward is awesome, and it makes me happy.
Sounds like you've through these projects some real authentic learning, and you've made some connections with real experts and people out there willing to help and support your students as they solve some of these problems too. That must be pretty fun to hear from some of these experts, hey?
Oh, for sure. So through the grants, we would start reaching out to, so we had a grant from APEGA. And so I don't even know what the acronym stands for, but it's basically an engineering and geology grant. And so through them, they brought engineers to my classroom. And so while my students are building habitats or building hydroponic gardens, I had university students and engineers come to my class, help my kids through the process. And then when we did a showcase at the end of the year, they were the judges. And it was incredible. Connecting to different, Let's Talk Science and all their resources led to us connecting with Canadian Space Agency, led to us talking to David Saint-Jacques from space. And Robert Thirsk was in my school. He was in my school. He came to my classroom and saw my plants. It was incredible. And so the more you can reach out to local people in the community, the better. And whether you do it through a grant or just your own ideas, like the U of A has this program called Future Energy Systems, and they have an entire educational outreach coordinator, Valerie Miller is her name. And you just shoot her a note on Twitter or find her email and look it up, and they will connect you with experts working on technologies from everything from solar energy to geothermal to anything. And the community loves to give back to kids. When you ask for something and you say it's for the children, people can't say no. You just can't. And so there's always, whether it's asking for money from a local developer to, help with a design building project in your classroom, or just having an expert come talk to your class, it is so meaningful. And then it creates those career pathways and, connecting to that entrepreneurial spirit. And how can I take all this mumbo jumbo that my crazy, enthusiastic, spacey science teacher talks about in class and actually see myself in that role in the future? How can I be a part of my community? How can I actually make a difference? And what will my future look like? And maybe we won't connect with all the kids, but if they can see themselves in another adult, that's magic. So,
wow, fantastic.
Do you have?
Yeah, no, but I think, even if it's not a career for the students, it's something they can certainly will value, right, within themselves and in the world that they want to live in the future, right? Do you have any other recommended resources for teachers, or whether it's a book or a website or things like that? You mentioned Scratch before and some microbits and things like that. Are there any other recommended resources you would recommend for teachers, maybe just on the starting point of their STEM journey?
Well, there's so much out there. So you could fall down the STEM stream, STEAM rabbit hole, and just Google whatever it is that you want and what you're looking at. So I was looking at Indigenous ways of knowing. So I Googled Indigenous STEM. And there's actually like some really great organizations, some right out of here in Alberta. And you can just, Googling things really is great. I have a lot of resources that I personally share. So if you Google Madame Amanda Green, MME, I just found out that my stepdaughter thought that MME was, she thought it was pronounced Mimi. So I'm like, I shall henceforth be referred to as Mimi Green. Anyways, Madame Green, you'll find my website. It's out there, or my social media. And I have a link tree also that links to a plethora of resources. So on my website or on my link tree and all my social media, there's links to, I have an entire reconciliation and STEM resource bank. I have links to all of the Black Gold websites, to the microbit and coding stuff, all of my science resources. I truly believe in just sharing everything freely. I'm not a teachers pay teachers girl. I just take it. Because that's what people did for me when I was a new teacher. And then I get a lot back too. That reciprocity is fantastic. So yeah, I guess that's my biggest thing is get connected to, get on social media and use that. It's a really powerful tool. I primarily use Twitter to connect with educators and other experts and scientists and just current events in STEM. And I find that really helpful and useful. So yeah, there's a lot out there.
Well, listen, thank you so much for all the contributions you've made to all your students, and also through your awesome social media channels, what you've done for other teachers. And thank you as well just for meeting with me here today and sharing a bit of your wisdom to help Alberta teachers. So thank you so much, Amanda. We'll be sure to follow you on social media. I love your TikToks. And your Twitter stream is a lot of great TikTok. Learning and a lot of fun too, yeah. Right?
Oh, it is fun. I just joined it to connect with my kids at the beginning of the pandemic, and now I'm hooked, and it's just super fun and a great way to connect with people all over the world. So yeah, there's lots of learning to be had, fun to be had, and I really appreciate this opportunity to kind of share my spark with other teachers. And again, reach out anytime. I love being able to help my fellow teachers.
Great. Well, thank you so much. You're such a leader in this area, and really appreciate your time today. Thanks a lot.